Online students, is my voice audible? Yeah, good. Good morning, everyone. In the last session, we started our discussion related to what is HTTP method and what are the HTTP methods we are going to use as part of our REST API. As part of our REST API development, we will be using get method, post method, put method, and delete method. When to go for get method? Get is used to get the data from the provider. Post is used to create the record. Put is used to update the record. Delete is used to delete the record. When we are developing the REST API, these HTTP methods are going to play very important role. Without HTTP methods, we cannot develop our REST API. Without HTTP methods, we cannot develop our REST API. Good. How to represent our Java class as a REST API, guys? By using @REST controller. Whenever you create a REST controller, in that we are writing some methods. Those methods are mapped to HTTP request. I'm using get mapping. What is the purpose of get mapping? What is the purpose of get mapping? It is used to map our methods to get request. Okay. Now, then we discussed about HTTP status codes also. What is HTTP status code? What is the purpose of HTTP status code? What is the purpose of HTTP status code? HTTP status code is used to represent how server processed our request. 200 to 299 will be represented as a success. 400 to 499 will be represented as a client error. 500 to 599 will be represented as a server error. These are the HTTP status codes provider will send to consumer. Now, when we are developing a provider, can we decide our own status code? By default, boot will give 200 as a status code. I don't want to give 200. I want to give 400 as a status code, or I want to give 204 as a status code. If you want to decide your own status code, then we will use response entity. Response entity is a class which will represent the status code and the response body for the consumer. Very good. As of now, we have developed our REST API, which is giving response in the form of text data. So let me run my application. How we are testing this application now? We are testing this application by using Postman. What is that Postman? It is a tool to send HTTP request to the server. So as we don't have a UI, we are testing our application by using Postman. Get request. What is this? Path parameter. How do we read path parameters in the REST controller? To read path parameters in the REST controller, we are using @path variable. How do we read query parameter? By using request param, we will read query parameter. By using path variable, we will read path parameter. When I send request to these REST API methods, I'm getting the response in the text format. But in the real time, our REST APIs will take JSON as a input, will provide JSON as a output. Now, I want to develop REST API which will provide JSON as a response. Develop a REST API which will provide JSON as a response. Now, see here, REST API with a JSON response. As of now, we have seen REST API with the text response. String we are returning. Now, I want to return JSON as a response from my REST API. REST API with JSON response. Let me create one simple Java application. File, new, Spring Starter project. I'm going to create 21 application. Spring Boot REST API. JSON response. JSON response. Good. Now I'm using web starter and dev tools. Click on next, click on finish. That's it. Yep. Project is created. Go to pom.xml. When you go to pom.xml, you can see web starter is available. Okay. Web starter is used to develop web application as well as REST application. And we got dev tools as a dependency. Whenever you add a web starter, by default, Jackson dependency also will come. Did I add the Jackson or it is coming by default? Earlier, when we learnt Jackson, JSON, we added that Jackson dependency manually. But when we are developing a application by using Spring Boot with web starter, you no need to add the Jackson dependency manually. It will be added by default with the web starter. Now, my project is created. Inside this project, to represent the data, I'm taking one class. So let me take a class called customer. This class we are calling as a binding class. Binding class nothing but to represent data. Now let me take some variables: private integer customer ID, private string customer name, customer ID, customer name, private string customer email. Okay, so I'm taking three variables. You can take any number of variables here. It is just one Pojo class which is having some variables. Let me write zero param constructor. Let me write parameterized constructor to initialize the variables, and we are writing some setters and getters also for the variables. Generate setters and getters for the variables. Generate constructor using fields. Then I'm writing some toString method. Okay, fine. So this class is just our Pojo, which is having three variables. Okay, now let's create one REST controller. Let's create one REST controller. New class in.ashokid.rest package. Here the class name is a customer REST controller. Customer REST controller. So to represent this class as a REST controller, we are using @REST controller annotation. Let me write one method. Public. What is the return type, guys? Response entity. Why we will go for response entity? To decide our own status code and status message and response body. Response entity, we are going to take a customer as a response. Earlier we have taken string as a response. Now we are taking customer object as a response. Now get a customer. I'm writing one method, get a customer. Okay. Now inside this, currently I don't have logic for a database integration, guys. Just I want to return one customer object. So in future, we will get it from database. In future, we will get it from database. But currently, database is not available. I'm going to create customer object directly. Customer C is equal to new customer, some ID and some name, right? And some email ID, some data. Assume that this customer object is coming from database. Now, so we are able to create one REST controller. Inside the REST controller, we are creating object for the customer. Now I want to return the customer object. Can I return the object directly? No. Why we will not return the object directly? What is the return type of the method? Response entity. Okay. In order to return new response entity. What is the body? Customer object. What is the status? HTTP status dot okay. Now I am returning this. Now tell me what is returning by our REST controller method. What we are returning from our REST controller method? What we are returning from the REST controller method? We are returning customer object. If I remove this response entity, or else if I remove this one, then can I return directly customer object? Yes. So who will decide the status code now? Spring Boot will decide the status code. If you want to set your own status code, then you need to use response entity as a return type. My method is returning one object. My method is returning one object. Now observe, I am having one REST API. So the application which contains a REST controller is called as a REST API. What is there in the REST API? There is a method available to get the customer data. Let me write @get mapping of /customer. @get mapping of /customer. What is the meaning of that? This method is mapped to get request. This method is mapped to get request. So if you send get request, this method will return customer object. So this is a Java application. We are sending one get request. When I send the get request, that method is available which is going to return one Java object. Now, today we are sending the request by using Postman. Tomorrow, if we send the request from consumer application, Java object, if I give, they will understand that or they cannot understand that. No, my consumer application is based on .NET. Okay, my REST API is based on Java. When they send get request by using /customer, my method is executed. What is my method returning now? Object. If my method give object as a response to the consumer, consumer is a .NET based consumer application developed by using .NET, then consumer will understand that Java object, or consumer cannot understand that Java object, So is it recommended to return Java object to the consumer? Do we need to return Java object to the consumer, or we should not return Java object to the consumer? We should not return Java object to the consumer. If I return Java object to the consumer, application will not become interoperable. Okay, only Java project can access my REST API. I cannot achieve interoperability. If I want to achieve interoperability, we should give object to the consumer, or we should give JSON to the consumer. We should give object to the consumer, or we should give JSON to the consumer. We need to give JSON to the consumer. Now, can we write the logic here to convert Java object to JSON, and can we return JSON as a response? Do you know how to convert Java object to JSON? How to convert Java object to JSON? By using Jackson API. Jackson API we will use to convert our Java object to JSON. But here, let's apply our common sense. Okay. Here, REST APIs developing only in our project or in every project? Everybody using REST APIs for distributed application. Everybody should convert object to JSON, JSON to object. Is it only my requirement, or it is a common requirement for every project? It is common requirement for every project. That's why in the Spring Boot, you no need to write the logic to convert from object to JSON. You just return the object. Boot will take care of converting your object to JSON format. Are you guys getting my point? I am writing one method. In this method, some logic will be available. In future, I will get the record from the database table, and I am going to return that object from my method. This method is available in the REST controller. This class is REST controller, that nothing but distributed component. There is a method available. Method is mapped to get request /customer is the URL pattern. This method is returning object. If I am returning the method from the object, does it mean that consumer will receive the object? No, consumer will not receive the object. What will happen is, when consumer send a request to our application will convert that object to JSON format. Whatever the object you are returning from the method, that object will be converted to JSON. JSON will go to the consumer. Who will convert that object to the JSON? Jackson API. Who will use that Jackson API? Spring Boot. Our REST controller will convert our Java object to JSON. 3 days back, we learnt what is a JSON, what is a Jackson. At that time, manually we have written the logic to convert Java object to JSON. What is the code we have written? If you see object mapper, we have used a class called object mapper class. Using object mapper, we have written this logic mapper dot write value. This is normal Java application. That's why we converted Java object to JSON. But when you use REST controller, internally this logic will be executed. You no need to write that logic. Why we no need to write that logic? Converting object to JSON, not only our project requirement, it is every project requirement. That's why Spring Boot is going to convert our Java object to JSON in the REST controller. I am writing my method. My method is returning object. Consumer will access my method by sending GET request. What response will go to the consumer? Customer object will go to the consumer. Customer object data will go in the form of JSON. My method is returning the object, guys. Consumer will access my method. When consumer access my method, they will get the object or they will get the JSON. Where is the logic to convert object to JSON? That will be taken care by REST controller. That is not programmer duty. That will be taken care by REST controller. Let's observe. Now, my REST controller is ready. Do you have any questions in this logic? Do you have any questions in this logic, guys? No, we don't have any questions in this logic because we just created one class. That class we represented as a REST controller. We created one method. Method is mapped to GET request. Inside the method, I'm creating one object with the data. I'm returning my object. Good. Let's run this application. Refresh. Run as Spring Boot application. Run this project. Clear the console. Now go to Postman. Method is mapped to GET request, guys. What is the URL pattern? /customer is the URL pattern. Go to browser, localhost colon 8080/customer. What is the expected output? Object or JSON? Click on send. Now, am I getting the response in the JSON format? Yes. Who is converting Java object to JSON? Jackson API. Who is using that Jackson API now? Programmer should write that logic or not required. But do you know what is happening internally? Object mapper class will be available. Write value method will be available. First we learned JSON. Now, whatever the code we have written to convert Java object to JSON, that code will be executed by REST controller internally. As a programmer, you no need to do the conversion from object to JSON. JSON to object will be taken care by Spring Boot. That is called auto configuration. Common logic is available. My method is returning a object, but what Spring Boot is doing? Boss, this is a REST controller method. REST controller method should not give the object because REST controller means distributed component. Interoperability should be available. That's why that object we are returning will be converted to JSON. JSON will go to the consumer. Can consumer understand the JSON now? Can consumer understand the JSON? Any technology will support for JSON. My application is interoperable. My application is interoperable. Okay. Can we write one more method which will return more than one customer object? I want to get multiple customer objects, guys. How can I get multiple customer objects? List of customers. I want to return list of customers. Let me write that logic also. Okay. Create one more method. Create one more method. Public. What is the return type? List of customer. Then I'm going to use get customers. Okay. So let me create multiple customer objects. Customer 1, customer 2, 3, something like this. You can create multiple objects, right? All these customer, let me change the name, John, some Smith, some David. Okay, 3 customers are available. I want to return all the customers as a list. Okay, how to add these objects to the list, guys? By using arrays dot as list. C1 comma C2 comma C3 is available. C1, C2, C3. I have a list. Now I got the customers. Now I got the customers. Let us go for return customers. Go for return customers. Okay. I want to map this method to a get request. How to map the method to the get request? By using @get mapping. @get mapping / customers. You see, both methods are mapped to get request only, but URL pattern is different. It is a customer, it is a customers. This is returning one object, this is returning list of objects. So tomorrow we will retrieve the records from the database and we will return. Currently database integration is not available. I'm returning dummy objects now. Okay. So let us restart our application, refresh, run as boot app, go to the console. Now cleared. Postman. Send a get request with customer. How many customer objects we are getting? One customer object in the form of JSON. Now go to customers, click on send. Now what happened, guys? List of customers are coming. How we are getting the list of customers? In which format we are getting the list of customers? The list of customers we are getting in the form of JSON. The list of customers we are getting in the form of JSON. Who is converting our Java object to JSON? Who is converting our Java object to JSON? Java object is converted to JSON by using Jackson API. Who is using that Jackson API? That Jackson API used by REST controller. It is used by our REST controller. So now you understand how to return JSON as a response. Why we are returning JSON as a response? Why we are returning JSON as a response? To achieve interoperability. To achieve interoperability. What is the meaning of interoperability? What is the meaning of interoperability? Two technology specific applications should communicate. Java.NET projects are communicating. That means they are called interoperable application. Java project should be able to communicate with the Python. Java should be able to communicate with the .NET. Java should be able to communicate with the Salesforce. Then only Java application is called as interoperable application. How two applications will communicate? By using HTTP as a mediator. How they will exchange the data? JSON format. Why consumer provider will use JSON format, guys? Why consumer provider will use JSON format? To achieve interoperability. JSON is common for all the languages. Java can understand the JSON. Python can understand the JSON. .NET also can understand the JSON. That's why we are using JSON as a format to represent input and output of our REST API. So when you send request for the REST API, it is providing the customer data in the JSON format. But as a programmer, am I writing the logic to convert object to JSON? Who is doing that? Jackson API. Who is using that Jackson API? REST controller. REST controller is executing object mapper to convert customer object to JSON format. It is a common logic for everybody because nowadays everybody developing the REST API in the market. In every REST API, object should be converted to JSON. JSON should be converted to object. That's why that a common logic is providing by Spring Boot. So it is very easy to develop the REST APIs in the Java because you just write your method by taking object as a input, object as a output. Spring Boot will take care of object to JSON, JSON to object conversion. Are you clear? Now, can we write one post method? What is the meaning of post method? What is the meaning of post method? To take the data from the customer. Okay, consumer will send the data to the provider in the post request format. Okay, now let me write one method, public string add customer. Public string add customer. I will write return customer added. Customer added. I want to take customer object as a method parameter system.out.println. Customer I am printing. In future, we will write DB logic to insert that customer in the database. In future, I will write the logic to insert the customer in the database. First, I want to see, am I able to access customer data in the method as a input. Okay, I want to map this method to post request by using post mapping slash customer. Get mapping is available and post mapping is available. When to go for get mapping, when to go for post mapping, guys? When to go for get mapping, when to go for post mapping? If you want to get the data, go for get mapping. If you want to send the data, then go for post mapping. What is my method parameter? Customer object. It is mapped to which request? Post request. Okay. Now stop the server, refresh. Yeah. Run as boot application. Application started. Now go to Postman. Whatever the customer data is available, I want to send that data. Get method, get customers working. Get customer, it is also working. This is JSON. Now I want to send post request with JSON data in the body. Get request will not contain the body, but post request will contain the body. Now I want to send post request to the REST API with the JSON data in the request body. With the JSON data in the request body. Go here. What type of request? Post. What is the URL? Slash customer. What is this option? Body. In which format you want to send the body? JSON. Add the JSON. Whatever the JSON you want to send, you send that JSON data. Okay, go to our console and see here nothing is available. I'm sending JSON data in the post request. What this method is expecting? Customer object. That means whatever the JSON we are sending as an input, that JSON should be converted into Java object. That Java object should come as a parameter for the method. The Java object should come as a parameter for the method. that object I'm printing on the console. So why we are printing? To see really JSON is coming as an input for our method in the form of object or not. If we are getting the data in the form of object, then I can insert into database also. Let's verify. Now go here. Post request is there. Post request I want to send. In this post request, I'm sending JSON data in the body. Beautify this alignment. Okay. Click on send. What is the response I'm getting? Customer added. What is the status code? 200. Okay. Now go here. Coming or not coming? Null values are there. So our data we are sending in the request body, is it mapping to Java object or not mapping to Java object? Our JSON data not stored into our Java object. Why? Because this method is calling by dispatcher servlet. Dispatcher servlet don't know where is that JSON data. That is the reason dispatcher servlet is sending empty object to the method which is having null values. Which is having null values. Now I need to tell to that dispatcher servlet, boss, this customer data will come in the request body. Customer data will come in the request body. How we are sending the JSON data to the REST API? We are, guys, observe. When you are developing web application, it is very easy. The reason controller will be available, UI will be available. Immediately you can understand where is the problem. Controller will send the data to UI. In the UI, you will display the data. Any problem, easily you can identify. But REST APIs are not like this. REST APIs, you need to develop with the imagination. Okay, because front end is not there, UI is not available. We are developing our application. Someone will use our application in the future. So today we are developing a REST API. Who will access this REST API? Somebody in the future. So we need to imagine that and we need to develop the API. Initially, for freshers, it is very confusing to develop the REST APIs because UI is not available. Everything is happening in the backend. Data we are sending in the JSON, data we are getting in the JSON, but where is the logic for that JSON? Not available. So in the initial days, it is little confusing, but you have to understand. Otherwise, you can't develop the projects in the real time. In the real time, every project will use REST APIs only for loosely coupling. Now you see, if you go to Make My Trip application, if you go to Make My Trip application, this application will run completely based on the JSON only. Completely based on the JSON. Hotels, flights, trains, buses, cabs. These all are REST APIs in the backend. Front end is different, backend is different. Now, when I type Hyderabad, Mumbai, 3rd January, I want to search for the flight. When I click on search button, what will happen? Front end will talk to back end. Back end application will give JSON data like this. That JSON data they are displaying in the front end. All this information, whatever you see, it is coming from the back end in the JSON format. That JSON they are giving to Angular application or React application. They are displaying the JSON in this format. Front end is separate, back end is separate. Now we are understanding back end application development, which is taking JSON as a input, which is giving JSON as a output. Able to follow me? Good. Now see here, our application is expecting post request. If I don't write this annotation, what is the problem? If I don't write this annotation, then what is the problem? Dispatcher servlet don't know where is the data for the customer object. As it don't know the data, it will create one empty object. It will pass to the method as the input. When the empty object is passed, all the null values will be available. I am sending the data in the post request body, but that data is coming to the REST controller. Data not coming to the REST controller. Data not coming to the REST controller. Why data not coming to the REST controller? It don't know how the data is coming, but I know data is coming in the request body. I will tell to REST controller, take this data from the request body. Which request will not contain the body? Get will not contain the body, but post will contain the body, put will contain the body, delete will contain the body. Okay, at the rate request body annotation is available. Now let us run our application. This time let us see, is it going to convert our JSON data to Java object or not? Go to the Postman 8080/customer, click on send. When I send this, customer added 200, okay. Go to console and check it. Yes. Am I able to get the data in the form of object? Yes. But how I am sending the data? JSON format. How I am getting the data? Object format. Who is converting JSON to object? Jackson API. So if you want to read the data from the request body, you need to write one annotation called @request body. So we have seen two annotations, guys. One is response body, another one is request body. What is the difference between request body and response body? Request body to read the data from the request body, response body to send the data in the response body. Okay, now here when I use request body annotation, whatever the JSON we are sending in the body, this JSON data converted to Java object, that Java object coming as a parameter for the method. Java object coming as a parameter for the method. Are you able to understand? Look at this. Get request method is available. Post request method is available. When we should use a get request method? When we should use a post request method? Come on. When we should use a get request method? When we should use a post request method? If you want to send the data to the, now we are acting as a provider or consumer. What we are developing now? How many, you remember distributed architecture? How many actors will be available? Two actors will be available. Who are those two actors? One is called provider, another one is called consumer. Who is called provider? Who is called provider? The application which is giving services to other application is called provider. Then who is a consumer? Who is a consumer? The application which is taking the services from other application is called consumer. Now I am developing one application today. This is a provider application or this is a consumer application? This is a provider. So provider means REST controller. REST controller is a provider. So inside the provider, get request method available, post request method is available. What is the meaning of get request? Getting the data. Post request means sending the data. Get request is used to get the data. Post request is used to send the data. Now here get request method returning object as a return type. What is the meaning of that? My method is returning object. Why I am returning object? That object will be converted to JSON. JSON will go to the consumer. Here I'm taking object as a parameter. My REST controller method is expecting object as a parameter. When I am expecting object as a parameter, so do you think that consumer will send object to my method? My method is expecting object, man. Do you think that consumer will send object as a input for my method? No. Why? My provider is a Java based provider. Consumer may be .NET, maybe Python, maybe PHP, maybe Node.js. How they will send the Java object? They cannot send the Java object. What consumer will do now? Consumer will send the JSON in the body. Request body they will send with the JSON data. But my method is expecting object. So that JSON should be converted to Java object. Who will do that? Jackson API. Who will use that Jackson API here? REST controller. Okay. We lent Jackson API. We no need to write the logic. Then why we lent Jackson? To understand internal process, internally how it is happening. So when I discuss Jackson API, I have written two methods, guys. One is convert object to JSON, JSON to object. When you send get request to the REST API, this logic is executing in the background. Our REST controller is executing this logic to convert Java object to JSON. When I send post request to the REST controller with JSON data in the request body, this logic is executing read value. It is taking the JSON from the body, converting to Java object. That object it is giving as a input for our REST controller method. Are you able to follow this? Similarly, here you can write one more method with a name called put mapping. What is that, guys? Put mapping. When to go for put request? When you want to update the customer. Customer updated. Now I want to send a put request to update the customer. Similarly, I want to write one method public string delete customer. To delete the customer object is not required. Customer ID is sufficient. Yes or no? Now I will take integer customer ID. Here I will write database logic to delete. Okay. Then finally I'm going to return the message as customer deleted. Okay. How I will get that customer ID? I will get the customer ID delete mapping /customer/customer ID. What is that? Path variable. Now, how to read the path variable? By using @path variable annotation. So, in the real time, as part of the REST APIs, these methods will be available. Delete method, update method, insert method, retrieve method, get mapping, post mapping, put mapping, delete mapping. Delete mapping, guys, when you go for delete mapping, you can take object as a input, you can take query parameter, you can take path parameter. That means body will be available. You can use query parameters also. You can use path parameters also. When you go for put mapping, same concept. Body will be available. You can use query parameters. You can use path parameters also. When you go for post mapping, body will be available. You can use query parameters. You can use path parameters. But when you go for get mapping, body will not be available. If you want the data, take only query parameter or path parameter. Now, see here, my REST API contains 5 methods. One is delete mapping. Another one is put mapping. Another one is post mapping. Two get mapping methods. One get mapping method will give one customer object. Second get mapping method will give list of customer objects. Are you able to follow this? Are you able to follow this? Good. Can we test it now? Can we test it now? Is it working as expected or not? Yes. Let's stop this. Refresh. Run as boot application. Okay. Go to Postman. First, let me go with the get request method /customer. Send it. Am I able to get the customer data? Am I able to get the customer data in the JSON format? Yes. Now, customers. Am I getting all the customers? Yes. Now let me go for put request, post request, customer. URL pattern, customer, post, JSON data, send it. What is the response I'm getting? Customer added 200. Okay. Now, same data, can I send in the put request also? What is the meaning of put request? Customer updated. Post is used to insert the data. Put is used to update the data. Post is used to insert the data. Put is used to update the data. Now I want to delete the record. I want to delete the record. What we do? What request I need to send? Delete request. What is the URL? Slash customer slash ID. ID is a path variable. To delete the record, we need to pass the ID. ID I am passing as a path variable. Click on send. Then it is failed. What is this, guys? URL mistake slash customer. Now send it. What is the response? Customer deleted. We are getting the response as a 200. So am I able to test all the REST API methods now? Yes, we are able to test our REST API methods. Look at this. Customer REST controller. Okay. In the Java class, if you want to represent as a REST controller, we are using @REST controller annotation. If you want to represent your Java class as a distributed component, then we are going to use @REST controller. Inside the REST controller, we are writing delete method. What is the meaning of delete method? DB logic to delete the record. Now, DB logic to update the record. Okay. DB logic to insert the record. DB logic to insert the record. Logic to get record from DB. Okay. Here also logic to get records from DB. Currently database integration is not there. That's why I'm writing some dummy methods now. We are able to send the data. We are able to get the data. Now we should write the logic to perform database operations. Objects are available. You can insert the object. You can retrieve the object. You can update. You can delete also. Look at this. This is called one REST API. This is called one REST API to perform CRUD operations. Insert, update, delete, retrieve. Anybody not able to understand this logic? Anybody not able to understand this logic? Come on. Look at the code. Initially, little confusion, guys. Once you are habituated to REST API development, it will become easy. Mainly, you need to deal with objects as parameter, objects as return type. The conversion part will be taken care by Jackson API. REST controller will deal with that. You no need to write the logic to convert object to JSON, JSON to object. I have taken one Java class. This class I'm calling as a binding, which is used to represent the data, customer data. Then I have created one REST controller. To represent this class as a REST controller, I used @REST controller method. I have created one method, get customer method, which is returning customer object. Method is returning object, but object will be converted to JSON when consumer access this method by sending a request. How we are testing these methods now? How we are testing these methods now? By using Postman. By using Postman, we are testing our methods. Okay. So one get mapping method returning customer object. Another get mapping method returning list of customer objects. Post mapping. Here, this is important, guys. If I don't write that annotation, then what will happen? Can you read this? Annotation indicating method parameter should be bound the body of the request. When you are sending data in the body, that data should be mapped to method parameter. My method parameter is a object. Whatever the JSON you are sending in the parameter, it should be mapped to customer object. That object should come as a parameter. Okay, next one. Put mapping, same thing. I'm taking the data in the body. Delete mapping, I'm taking ID. In which format? Path variable. Okay. Now observe guys. When I go for post request with body in the JSON, what is the status code I'm getting? 200. But actually for the post methods, we should give the status as 201. For get request, 200 is okay. But for the post request, we should not give the 200. What is the meaning of a post? What is the meaning of post, guys? Record is created. So we need to give status code as a 201. 201 means created. Okay. How to give 201 from the post mapping? By default, 200 is coming as a status code. I don't want 200. I want to give 201 as a status code. How can we give that? Come on, fast. By taking response entity of string. So this is my response body. String body is equal to customer added. What is the response now? Return new response entity of body, comma, HTTP status dot created. Okay. New response entity body, comma, created. What is the meaning of created? 201. 200 means okay. 201 means created. Are you clear? Good. Now stop this and start it. Application started. Clear the console. Go to Postman. Send post request. Earlier we got 200 as a status code. Click on send. Now what we are getting as a status code? 201 record is created. So for get request methods, we will use 200 as a status code. For the post request methods, we will use 201 as a status code. Okay, perfect, good. Now, so with this, we understood how to develop a REST API which will give JSON data as a response. What is the first step? Create Spring Boot app with a web starter. That's it. Do I need to add the Jackson? Is it required or not required? Not required. Why? Transdiv dependency management. In the Maven, transdiv dependency management is available. What is the meaning of transdiv dependency management? What is the meaning of transdiv dependency management? When you add one dependency, its child dependencies also will be added. When you add web starter, Jackson will be added by default. Then create binding class. What is the purpose of binding class? To represent data. So here my binding class is customer. My binding class is customer. Okay. Customer is available. Then create REST controller. Create REST controller with required methods. Required methods. Example, we are using get, post, put, and delete. Okay. So these are basically to perform CRUD operations by using our REST API. This is my REST controller. This is my REST controller. Okay. And here guys, we are returning string here, string here, string here. Here we are returning object. We are returning object. When I am returning object, what is the meaning of that? When I am returning the object, what is the meaning of that? It is converting the Java object to JSON. Here, to improve that readability, we can specify value is equal to slash customer. What is the meaning of value is equal to slash customer? URL pattern, comma, produces is equal to application slash JSON. Okay. When somebody, this is optional guys, it's not mandatory. Without this also, we are able to run our application. It is working. Now, I'm writing produces is equal to application slash JSON. What is the meaning of that? When somebody look at this method, they will understand, okay, this method will produce the output in the JSON format. Getting my point? Similarly, here also, value is equal to slash customers. How it is producing the response? Produces is equal to application slash JSON. What is produces? Produces will represent in which format our method will provide the response to the consumer. So in which format our method providing the response to the consumer? Actually, I am returning object. Excuse me. Actually, I am returning object, but object will go to the consumer, JSON will go to the consumer, JSON will go to the consumer. So what I am writing here, produces is equal to application slash JSON. Now, what about post mapping? What it is producing? Value is equal to slash customer, comma, produces is equal to what it is producing? String. String is nothing but plain text. String is nothing but plain text. And this method is consuming JSON. This method is consuming JSON. Produces and consumes. What is the meaning of produces? Produces will tell in which format this method will provide the response to the consumer. Consumes will represent in which format this method will take the input. Okay. Now, for this get method, input is available or not available? Not available. Body will not be available. So that's why I'm not writing the consumes here. So it is taking a request and it is producing the JSON. So directly produces is equal to JSON. For this method also, any method parameter available? No body. So it is only producing the JSON. But what about post method? It is mapped to this URL. It will produce text data, but it is consuming JSON data. Input is JSON. Output is string. Method input will be represented by consumes. Method output will be represented by produces. In the interview, they will ask you, what is consumes and produces in the REST controller? Consumes will represent in which format REST API method taking the input. Produces will represent in which format REST API method will provide the output. Consumes plus produces. A method can have consumes as well as produces. Now you see post method is available. It is consuming JSON and it is producing text data. What about this put mapping guys? Can you tell me for the put mapping? What it is consuming, what it is producing? Look at this method. Put mapping method is available. What it is consuming and what it is producing? It is consuming JSON data and it is producing string, that means text. When your method is returning object, that means it is JSON. Object will be converted to JSON. When your method is returning string, that means it is a text plain data, plain text data. Now, what about the delete mapping? Any consumes available? Only that path variable is available. Any body it is consuming. So if there is a body, then only consumes required. But for this method, am I taking any data from the body? I'm not taking. So I need to write only produces or consumes plus produces. What it is producing? What it is producing? Text slash plain. Now go for put mapping. Tell me about the put mapping. What is consumes and what is produces for the put mapping? What is the consumes and what is produces for the put mapping? Come on. Value is equal to slash customer. Consumes application slash JSON. Produces text slash plain. Nothing but plain text. That's it. So when you see REST APIs in the real time, they will have annotation like this. Delete mapping value. Value represent URL pattern of the method. Produces represent what output this method will give to the consumer. Put mapping. This method is mapped to put request to update the record. Value customer URL pattern. Consumes JSON. Method expecting JSON as the input. Produces text plain. Method will provide plain text as the output. Then post mapping. Method is mapped to post request. Nothing but creating the record. Value is equal to slash customer. Produces plain text. Consumes JSON. That means this method will take JSON data from the request body. This method will give text data in the response body. Consumes plus produces. Okay. Next one, get customer value slash customer produces. What it is producing? JSON. That means this method will give JSON data in the response body for the consumer application. Then again, one more get mapping method, value slash customers, method URL pattern produces. This method will produce JSON data in the response body to the consumer application. So tell me, what is the purpose of consumes and produces in the REST API? What is the purpose of consumes and produces in the REST API? Consumes and produces will represent in which format our REST API method will take the input and will provide the output. In which format it will take the input, in which format it will provide the output. Very good. REST API easy or difficult, guys? Easy? Look at the code. Customer REST controller, delete mapping, which is having only produces. Plain text it is producing. Put mapping, consuming JSON, producing plain text. Post mapping, consuming JSON, producing only text. Get mapping, no consumes, only producing. Another get mapping, no consumes, only producing. Are you clear? Good. Now, today assignment. You need to develop REST API to perform CRUD operations with MySQL database. Can you do that? That is the first assignment I am giving in the REST API. Assignment 1. Develop REST API to perform CRUD operations and test it using Postman. Develop REST API to perform CRUD operations with MySQL DB. With MySQL DB or you can use H2DB also. Anything is fine. Develop REST API to perform CRUD operations with H2DB and test it using Postman. Clear? Now, for this one, guys, already I have uploaded video. In our channel, I have given that video, guys. How to develop REST API to perform CRUD operations. If you go to the videos long back, let me find out. Somewhere. Huh. This one, guys. So within 30 minutes, 3 months back, I uploaded this one. Spring Boot project development using REST API plus data JPA plus MySQL DB. In this video, I have explained how to perform CRUD operations by using REST API. We already implemented that REST API. Only the pending part, I have not added JPA. JPA repository I have not created. If I create that repository, then I can call save method, find by ID, find all, and delete methods are available. So Spring Boot REST API project development. In this project, we have followed this architecture. Okay. REST controller will be available. That REST controller will be talking to service. Service will be talking to repository. My repository extending the properties from JPA repository, and it will communicate with the MySQL database. Pom.xml is available where the dependencies will be configured. YML file is available. Data source properties will be available. How I am testing this REST controller functionality? Postman, because there is no UI. Now, so in this video, we created that boot application. Course record I have taken. Lombok I used. Then I created one REST controller. First service methods. Then REST controller is created. Inside the REST controller, I'm injecting my service class. So REST controller will talk to service methods. So if you see, what is the return type of the method? Response entity. Why we are taking response entity as a return type? We can customize status code for the request and response. What is this annotation? Request body. What is the purpose of request body? To read the data from the request body. Okay. Now, it is mapped to post mapping. What is the meaning of a post mapping? It is used to create the course in the database, right? Next one, here, another method, get course. How I am taking the course ID for the get request, guys? I'm taking the get request, and how I am taking the course ID? Path variable. How to read that path variable? Path variable annotation is available. Then I'm writing get all courses. Put mapping is available. Delete mapping is available. What put mapping is used for? Update the course. How it is reading? Request body. I want to delete the course in the table. How to delete the course in the table? By taking the course ID as a any difference for today's application? What is extra in that project? Only database logic is available. The database logic we developed by using data JPA. Okay, so we are able to create the same kind of REST controller, but the thing is, I am not talking to the database in this application. We need to add the data JPA in the project. So today, I want all of you to complete this REST API project. How I am testing that? By using Postman, we are testing that project. So before coming to tomorrow's session, everybody should complete this REST API development. Okay, good. Tomorrow, we are going to learn what is Swagger. Tomorrow, we will learn what is Swagger, how to use Swagger documentation in the REST API. Don't forget to practice, guys. It's very, very, very important. You can use either H2 database or you can use MySQL database also. to develop this application. Develop REST API to perform CRUD operations with the H2 database and test it by using Postman. And here in the interview, they may ask one question to confuse you like this. I have a post mapping method. What is the meaning of a post mapping? To create the record. What is the purpose of put mapping? To update the record. What is the purpose of delete mapping? Delete the record. Purpose of get mapping? To get the record. In the interview, they will ask you a question. By using post mapping, can I delete the record? What is the purpose of post mapping actually? To create the record. To delete the record, which method we will use? Delete mapping method. They will ask a question. By using post mapping, can I update the record? By using post mapping, can I delete the record? Yes, you can do it, because inside this method, what logic you can write, you can do it. You can write the logic to get the record. You can write the logic to update the record. You can write the logic to delete the record. But it is not recommended. Why? Because HTTP not only for our project. HTTP is a universal project. Now, I am developing the REST API. Inside this post method, DB logic to delete the record. Suppose, for example, I have written database logic to delete the record in the post method. I know that in my project, post method will delete the record. But rest of the people in the IT industry, what they will think about the post method? Post method is used to insert. But what I am doing? Delete. That means it is against. Though we are not following the best practices. Tomorrow, my consumer from the different company, for that consumer, can you tell, hey, if you want to delete, send a post request. Then what they will tell? Bhai, kahan se aaya aap? Why are you writing this delete logic in the post method? Because that's not the actual recommended path. Okay. So if you want, you can do it, but it's not a best practice. Are you getting my point? Somebody may ask a question. By using get request, can I delete the record? You can do it. Inside the method, you can write any logic also, but you need to follow some standards. Why we need to follow the standard? Because whatever the REST API we are developing, some other company will access our REST API. Some other company will access our REST API. They already know what is post, what is put, what is get, what is delete. That HTTP is a universal protocol. Everybody will follow. There are some guidelines available. If you don't follow those guidelines, people will laugh at you. So that is the reason. Don't confuse the people when you are developing the REST API. Get means to get the data. Post means create the data. Put means update. Delete means delete. Sir, in the get method, I will write logic to delete. In the delete method, I will write the logic to insert. In the put method, I will write the logic to read. You can do it. REST API will not give any problem. Your code will work. But where the problem will come? Confusion. Who will get confused? Other people who are going to access our REST API, they will get confused. That's why you should not do that mistake. Getting my point? Yes. Yep. Perfect, guys. So with this, we understood what is provider, how to develop a provider, how to test that provider by using Postman, how to deal with text data as a response, how to deal with JSON data as a response, and get, post, put, delete, consumes, and produces. What is the meaning of consumes here, guys? What is the meaning of consumes in our REST API? Come on. Consumes. It represents in which format our REST API method can take input data from request body. So you are sending the data in the request body. In which format it will take the data from the request body will be represented by consumes. Example, how we will specify? consumes is equal to application slash JSON. Then what about produces, guys? What about produces? Produces represents in which format our REST API method can provide response to consumer in response body. Consumes will represent input data in the request body. Produces will represent output data in the response body. Good. Currently, our REST API taking JSON as the input, output also JSON. In future, we will see JSON plus XML as a input. One method can support for multiple formats also. That is the main advantage in the REST API. Okay, as of now, I am using only JSON. So in future, I will show you how can we take both the XML as a input, JSON as a input. XML as output, JSON as a output. My method can support for multiple formats of the data. Okay. In the SOAP web services, that facility not available, but in the REST API, that facility available. But if I use both at a time, you will get confused. That's why first you need to become perfect in the REST API development with the JSON data. Then we can go for the XML. Are you clear? But in the industry, people will use which one? Only JSON, not XML. XML is outdated. People are using only JSON format. Good. Okay, what is the task for today? Develop REST API to perform CRUD operations with the H2 database. Got it. What about your assignments, guys? 14 or 15 assignments available in the Spring Boot, Data JPA and WebMVC. Completed? Multiple databases pending. I will explain that part. Okay, because for multiple databases, I developed that project by using Boot 2.x version. In 3.x version, it is not working. We will check what is the change in the 3.x and we will fix that issue. Apart from that, remaining assignments. If you don't complete the assignments, you will not get the confidence to attend the interviews. Every day now, REST API started. Today I have given the assignment. Every day new assignment will be coming. If you don't complete your old assignments, your backlog will increase. What is the meaning of backlog? Pending stories. Your pending assignments will be increased. So please complete them. Please come. Why? Because once microservices started, the topics will become very difficult, guys, because once you go for microservices, we need to develop 4-5 projects to run our application. Lot of configurations will be available when you go for microservices. So before going to start that microservices, you need to be strong in all these areas: Boot, JPA, WebMVC and REST API. Okay, so today I request all of you go through that video and complete your project and test that project by using Postman. Tomorrow we will see how to work with Swagger. Okay, thank you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. I will be updating the notes in the portal. 1 minute. Yep, REST API notes. Yep. Now for JRTP, who are attending this REST API from JRTP classes, I'm uploading the notes for you also, guys, in the portal. Please access that. REST API notes uploaded. Yesterday for JRTP logging notes available. Na? I have forgot to upload. Are you practicing the tools also? Now implement logging in the project. Whatever the REST API developing. Morning you are learning the concept. Evening you are learning the tools. So whenever you are developing this REST API, you implement logging in the project so that parallelly you can practice the tools as well. Good. Fine. Any questions, anyone? Please receive the call. Okay. So send a message to me, guys. Daily 100 to 150 calls I'm getting from the students. I want to exit from all the WhatsApp groups. So people are sending daily, I'm getting 500 to 600 WhatsApp messages, 100 to 200 phone calls. I can't answer all the calls. I have my work also. I need to take the classes. I need to manage the institute. I can't answer all the phone calls. If anything is emergency, please send me a WhatsApp message. When I get that time, I will reply to that. Okay. Please don't keep on calling me. So once you give me a call, if I don't answer, continuously they are calling non-stop. So please send me a message to me in the WhatsApp, because answering these many calls, replying to these many messages daily, very difficult for me. Okay, good. Thank you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.